Hi again, Mark here from Talkingbass. This week we're going to look at arpeggios, specifically 4-note inversions, and I'm going to give you a little etude that should not only help with learning your arpeggios and chord tones a little better, but also help with moving around the neck a lot. As always, the lesson material is all there over at talkingbass.net. Just click that link in the info below. Also, like the video, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment below. Then remember to check out the totally free membership over at Talkingbass. Talkingbass is now a complete social network for bass players. Just log in and you'll be able to connect with over 100,000 other bass players from all over the world in the forums, groups, and chat rooms. It's very much like Facebook for bass players, but with the addition of over 450 free bass lessons, a ton of free practice resources, and a set of ebook downloads such as the Scale Reference Manual. Then, if you want to take things further, there are the premium courses on everything from beginner bass to reading music to scales, chord tones, slap bass, ear training, and much more. So sign up today, remember it's totally free, and join a great bass community. Okay, so I've already covered inversions in a few earlier lessons, which I'll link to below, but just as a quick refresher, to understand inversions, we have to start by simply taking an arpeggio like a C major triad, which is the notes C, E, and G in ascending order. So we call that root position. We play the triad starting on the root note, which is C. Then, to create inversions of a triad, we simply take those 3 notes and we start them from a different lowest note. So we've got C, E, and G as the chord tones in there. If we were to start with E as our lowest note, ascending in order, we'd have E, G, and C. That's called first inversion. Then, if we start on the G, the 5th there, we would have G, C, E. That's second inversion. So we've got root position, C, E, G. First inversion, E, G, C, and second inversion, G, C, E. That's the root position and the 2 inversions of a major triad. So let's quickly run through the arpeggios I played there. So for the root position, C, E, and G, so C major triad, I've got 3rd fret A string, then 2nd and 5th fret on the D string. That's the most popular of the major triad arpeggio patterns, but you could also play it with the G at the open string there, open G string, so that's C, E, and G, 3rd fret A string, 2nd fret D string, open G string. Both of those are completely valid. Then for the first inversion, I had E, G, C, so there I'm playing 7th fret A string, then the 5th fret on the D and the G string. E, G, C, that's first inversion. Then for second inversion, we've got G, C, and E, so there I'm playing 10th fret on the A string and the D string, and then the 9th fret on the G string. Okay, so it's a lot easier if you just learn this as the notes, if you know that it's C, E, G, E, G, C, and G, C, E, but if you're really looking for the pattern side of this, then there's your patterns. We could also finish off that cycle by just repeating the root position again up at the octave, so exactly the same as I had down here, C, E, and G. So root position, first inversion, second inversion, root position, and then come back down through them. Okay, so that'll seem a little bit more difficult when you come back down because you've actually got to think of what the top note is that you're coming down from, but all good practice. So we can do this with any chord and any chord quality. So let's have a look at a C minor, just so we've got a direct comparison there. So you could play the C minor chord, C, E flat, and G in root position. We've got a couple of different ways you could play it. So I could play the C and the E flat on the A string, 3rd fret and 6th fret, and then the G at the 5th fret of the D string. Or I could play the E flat there at the 1st fret of the D string. So C, E flat, G. Either way, same notes, just a different shape. So there's root position. Then for first inversion, we're going to start on the E flat. So E flat there at the 6th fret of the A string, and then I'm coming up through the G and the C. So that's the first inversion of the C minor. And then for the second inversion, I start on the G, G, C, and E flat. So 10th fret on the A and the D string, and then the 8th fret up on the G string. And then I could play the C minor up there at the top, and then come back down through them again. Okay, so that's the minor triad. But, you can do this with any chord, augmented chords, diminished chords, all the 7th chords, whatever you want to try it with, you can invert them all, okay? And you want to try it on every root note. So, work through the cycle of 4ths or 5ths, so C, F, B flat, E flat, A flat, etc. Okay, so that's the basics of inversions, but today we're going to expand on this a little by playing our inversions in groups of 4. So let's take a C major triad again, so in root position, C, E and G. Now if we want to play that triad in a 4-note grouping, then we need to add an extra note. So we're going to just repeat the C when we get to the top. So C, E, G, and as if we're going to continue, C, C, E, G, C. So there's that C major triad in root position, just played as 4 notes. We can apply this to all of the inversions, so then let's move to the first inversion for the C major. So before we had E, G and C, okay? All we've got to do is add the E up on the top. So we're just repeating the bottom note at the octave. Okay, so E, G, C, and up to the E. Then we move up to the second inversion, G, C, E, and then G up on the top. So, and then we can move up to the top octave there for the C, so C, E, G, root position, and then they put the C on the top again. Okay. We can also come back down through those, so again, this is going to seem a little bit more tricky because we've got to think of the top note coming down. So C, G, E, C, and then we come down on the second inversion, so we're going to be coming down off the G, the 5th, then from the E, and then from the C. So that's going to take a little bit of practice in itself. So, you know, practice that for a while, just coming back down through the inversions, okay? And obviously we can also do that with the minor triad. So if we were to take a C minor triad, we could come up, just add that C up on the top with whichever fingering you wanted to use. Then for the first inversion, I start on the E flat, G, C, and then E flat on the top. Then for the G, okay, so that's the second inversion. We're starting on the G as the bottom note, and then up the octave for the C. And there again, I'm using the C, E flat. I'm moving on to the D string for the E flat, just to make it a little bit easier. So, and then coming back down again, it's going to seem a little bit weird. Coming down on that G, then coming down on the E flat, and then down on the C. And when I get down to the bottom, I generally come down using that G and the E flat on the D string just to differentiate between the other inversions, okay? So it just seems a little bit, well, easier, so. Okay, so that's the C minor. So there we have C major and C minor triads in inversions working up in 4-note groupings. Okay, so let's finish up with an etude working through multiple arpeggios. The etude's in the key of C, and it sounds like this. So this etude simply works through the chord progression 1, 6, 2, 5 in the key of C. So we've got the arpeggios C major, A minor, D minor and G major. Because it's very cyclic, we can just work round and round on it, really cementing that knowledge of the inversions. And because we're playing with groups of 4 here, it makes the rhythmic side of things a lot more useful for this kind of etude, because we can play a straight 8th or 16th notes rather than having to use triplets or kind of cross-rhythmy kind of ideas with the 3-note triads. So I'll quickly work through this etude, but the key to the exercise is understanding each arpeggio and inversion away from the etude, so you can basically just run through the chord progression on the fly. So I'm not going to work through every single note in here because you can see it all there on screen on the tab and sheet music. What instead I'm going to do is just work through the arpeggios themselves. So we begin on a C major. So this is the same thing that we've just practiced in the previous exercises. So let's work up through C major. So we've got C in the root position there, then first inversion, second inversion, and up to the root position again, repeating at the top, and back down. So exactly the same exercise that we'd played previously. Next we move to A minor. So I'm starting at the A there at the 5th fret of the E string, and I'm coming up root position, first inversion, then second inversion, and then up to the root position again at the top. And when I get to that one up at the top, I'm actually just using the second and first finger for the A to the C, and then using the third finger there, joint barring at the, 19th fret there on the A and the D string, just to make things a little bit easier because it can get a bit congested up there. Coming back down, and then just back down through the inversions. Now, one little tip for working through these is to always be aware of where your root note is. So when you start, we're looking at that root note there at the 5th fret of the E string. So I'm coming up, okay? Then when I move to the first inversion, I'm aware of this A here at the 7th fret of the D string. So I'm seeing everything around that root note. You always want to be aware of where your root note is, okay? Then when I move up into the second inversion, I'm relating everything to this A here at the 12th fret of the A string. Okay, so I can see the 5th below it. I can see all the intervals working around it. There's the 5th below, there's the 3rd above. You know, I've just basically got this arpeggio there starting on the A, but I'm playing the 5th below it as well. So if you can always see where your root note is, even if you're just completely pattern based and you're not thinking of the notes, at least you can see that, you know. Then when I move up to this top, I'm seeing this A here at the 17th fret. When I come back down, again, there's the A at the 12th fret of the A string, there's the A at the 7th fret of the D string, and then I'm coming down, seeing this A down at the 5th fret. And again, when I come down, right there at the bottom on that A minor, I'm shifting down into the E and the C on the A string, okay? So I don't move into this area for the first finger. I'm coming down on the 3rd finger pattern, or whatever you want to start it on. So yeah, so there's the A minor. Always seeing those A's. Next we move to D minor, exactly the same as we did with A, but we're just up a string on the A string, okay? So I'm looking at the D at the 5th fret of the A string, and I come up root position, first inversion. Again, I'm seeing the D there at the 7th fret of the G string, and then when I move up into second inversion, I'm seeing the D at the 12th fret of the D string, and then up to the D up at the top. Okay, so you can keep your bearings a lot better by tracking where the root note is. And finally, we're on the G major. So I'm coming down to the 3rd fret of the E string, coming up in root position, first inversion, second inversion, root position. Oops. Okay, so exactly the same fingerings pretty much as the C major, but just a string below. So let's put all of that together very slowly, and just another tip in terms of learning it, what you can do is start with that C major, just getting that down slowly in your own time, no metronomes or anything like that, then add the A minor, and then just try working C major to A minor, C major to A minor, then add the D minor, C, A minor, D minor, C, A minor, D minor, and eventually you can add the G, okay? So just do it in chunks like that, okay? So here's the whole thing, so beginning with C major, to A minor, to D minor, and to G major, and back to the C major. So you can just keep going round and round on it. Okay? So, as I said, you want to practice that etude slowly and in your own time. Don't worry about playing with consistent rhythm and time. You can do all of that later if you want, but the most important thing here is the notes. Get the notes down and work on those position shifts, playing it totally out of time, and then you can steadily work up speed if you want to and look to play with more of a consistent time. This is a really good exercise for not only learning inversions, but also improving your knowledge of the fretboard and your technique by way of the position shifting. We're always moving around, so you have to constantly focus on the notes under your fingers, and you might even get finger twisted with the finger picking, so you just want to take things slowly and analyze what you're doing each time. Once you've learned this etude in C, try playing it in all keys. By practicing it in different keys, possibly through the circle of fifths and fourths, you'll learn all the major and minor arpeggios all over the neck, and you'll develop a much better knowledge of chords within a key. Okay, so that's inversions. Remember to like, comment and subscribe, and then get on over to Talkingbass where you'll find the lesson material, and you can also sign up for free and join a community of over 100,000 bass players in our Talkingbass social network. There are forums and groups just like Facebook, alongside a huge number of free practice resources and lessons. So go check it out, and I'll see you next week.